Despite the colourful menu backdrop and the colourful new hair, the newest additions to Dead by Daylight, both Survivor and Killer, could actually mark one of the darkest chapters that Dead by Daylight has ever seen. For those who don't have access to the PTB and are interested in the story of the new characters, I'll give you a quick overview of the lore that seems to be contained within the character backstories. The Survivor and Killer are of the same story, one being a rising music icon and the other his selfish music producer. The Killer is now known as the Trickster, and he was once a man called Ji-Woon, who from a young age craved the attention of others, performing with throwing knives that would one day become his signature killer power. After years of lessons and training, he was recruited into the training program of Yoon Lee, a producer at a music company, and so began his fast track to stardom. Eventually Ji-Woon would be selected for a band that Yoon Lee managed called No Spin, and for a while the attention he garnered while leading the band satisfied him. Yet eventually he began to loathe that he had to share the spotlight with his bandmates. Chance came when he returned to the recording studio as a fire had broken out. His bandmates were trapped inside the inferno. Yoon Lee had already fled, caring only for her own life. He began to save them, but suddenly he stopped and bathed in the glory of hearing their voices shout out his name as they burned to death, Ji-Woon, Ji-Woon, Ji-Woon. He was transformed. To him this was the most beautiful sound, beautiful music of all. From there his taste grew darker. He began to relive those moments where his bandmates cried out for his name, and he used to target those who lived alone, torturing them in abandoned venues so he could let their screams free as he tortured them brutally. He would record these sessions and have it blended into his current songs. His murders were brutal and violent, and he taunted the police. One grim example is of a fan he killed during a VIP meetup, whose eyes he took and replaced with diamond cufflinks, writing "I have seen God" in blood across her chest. He saw this as new art, yet his music career began to suffer, and the music company blamed him for the failure since he was now self-producing his music. Only Yoon stood up for him. She pushed him to tap into his grief and his dark side in order to create new sound, and he did, under the new stage name The Trickster. Together they toured the world as success followed them, yet also did a series of flamboyant murders. The connection disturbed her, and she was concerned the killer may have been inspired by our artist and upped his security. Eventually she began to suspect that his experimental music may be sampling the cries of the victims of the murders, yet she stifled this in order to preserve her artist and preserve her success. The music company had had enough, and it was decided by the board he had only 3 months to perform a private show for the board, and that would decide his fate. Ji-Woon was happy to oblige, but he had something else in mind, another spectacle. He had them all drugged, and he had Yoon tied up, and her eyes pried open as he performed one final concert for her. He ripped apart the board members on stage, eliciting a concerto from their voices for her to gaze upon. As he finished killing the last board member, he moved to Yoon to finish what he had started, and it was at that moment that they were both taken by the fog. So there we have it, essentially a killer who takes pleasure in making people scream, as he sees it as his art, and they are his instruments. Ultimately, he is a musician who has resorted to sadism to create a new form of art in his eyes, and now will be useful to the entity in making survivors scream. So thanks guys, that's my brief overview of the lore. There's a lot more in-depth examples in both of their backstories, but didn't want to go into it too much. Just wanted to give a kind of brief overview for people who haven't got the PTB yet and are wondering what the story is. If you like this video, please like and comment and consider subscribing, as I will be doing more DbD content. But for now guys, take care.